Over to you, Randy.
Hi. Oh, let me unmute it. Hi, everybody. I'm Randy. I'm an alcoholic. I'm assuming you can hear me okay. I can hear you good today. So, okay. So I'm alcoholic. That means I'm allergic to alcohol. My body has become allergic to alcohol. I can never ever drink alcohol successfully again. And that would be something. If I was only allergic to alcohol and I stopped drinking alcohol, all of my troubles would disappear because all of them would be related to alcohol, which they seem to be and when I first come in. But as time passes, I start to see that I have more problems than alcohol and that these problems don't go away. And all of the self-will I can muster doesn't help with these other problems. And so as time passes, I become aware that I have alcoholism. Some people come to AA, they stop drinking, they just go to a few meetings a week, and their lives are beautiful. That was not my experience. I came to AA, I stopped drinking, my life got beautiful for about 6 months. And at a year and a half of sobriety, it started to become miserable again. And at 2.5 years of sobriety, I was thinking very often about suicide. And I had no idea what was wrong with me. I thought I was just unlucky. I thought things just didn't work out for me. I thought that I wasn't doing the program right and other people were. And so I thought maybe I need more meetings. So I went to more meetings. And I thought maybe I need to work the steps again. So I worked the steps again. And I wasn't getting better. I was getting worse in my head. Inside, what went on in my head was getting worse. And then I met a man who talked about alcoholism, a disease that centers in his mind. And the way he described it was as an unsatisfiable, fault-finding, opinionated mind. And I have to be reminded of that every day for my life, because I am unsatisfiable, I am fault-finding, and I'm opinionated. And I see it over and over and over again. LA is on fire. It's on fire. The whole city's like on fire. The valley is completely on fire. And it's coming over Bel Air today. And the streets are a disaster. And I had to go to the doctor today. And it was just such a phenomenal pain to get across town. And I want to complain about the traffic. But there's people that have lost their houses, that have burnt to the ground. I don't think about that. I'm only concerned with the traffic and why are all these people in my way because I've got to be somewhere. And that's alcoholism. I am fault-finding with everybody on the streets. I never see the big picture. I never think about anybody else's pain. It's all Randy, Randy, Randy. It's all selfish, self-centered, fear-based reality for me as an alcoholic with alcoholism. And I have to see that that's who I am. Because if I don't see that, then I am not going to do what's necessary to treat that. I'm going to go to a meeting, and if I don't feel like drinking today, maybe I won't go to a meeting, maybe I will. And I'm going to get on with the business of making money and getting a new girlfriend and a new house and a new job and a new car. And I'm going to go along doing life, not realizing that there's something wrong with me that needs a treatment, and then something happens. The tube is too crowded and someone steps on my foot and I want to kill them. Just want to kill them. Out of the blue, I have homicidal thoughts. For me, it's not that out of the blue. I have them quite often. When things don't go the way I want, when they're not going fast enough, when the person in front of me is not, they don't have their check filled out in advance at the grocery store. They're just standing there doing nothing. And then they get to the front and they can't find their pen and they can't find their checkbook. And then they got to write it out. And it's, it probably took a minute for them to get their act together, but it felt like a year, and I want to kill them. And that's alcoholism. Because I need to be somewhere. I don't really have anywhere to be, but I need to be somewhere other than where I am, because wherever I am, that's where my mind is. And wherever I am, my mind is driving me crazy about whatever it's talking to me about. And I think that if I can get somewhere else, maybe I can get away from this mind, but it goes wherever I go. So I have this disease, I have alcoholism. It needs a treatment, and it doesn't need a treatment later, and it doesn't need it earlier. It needs a treatment right now, right here in this room. And this meeting is called Principles in Application. And the reason for this meeting is to remind me that I need to treat my disease right now, that it needs to be treated now. It says in the 12 and 12, and I know I say this every week, but it's so powerful. It's so important. Every AA meeting is an assurance that God will restore me to sanity if I rightly relate myself to him or it or her or whatever you want to call it. You don't even have to call it God, just something. But that something will restore me to sanity if I rightly relate myself to it. So when am I going to do that? Am I going to wait till the meeting's over? Am I going to do it later on my ride home, or when I think I need it with the relationship I'm in? Or am I going to start doing it right now in the meeting so I could be restored to sanity right now? And so for me, I have to start now. Power, could you be with me? Could you help me? Could you help me hear what's being said in this meeting? Could you help me just be present in this meeting and not be talking to myself about something else? Could you protect me from my mind? And I always say this also. I don't, it's none of my business if you're listening to me. I don't particularly care. If you want to come to the meeting and sit down and fantasize about a trip to Morocco, enjoy yourself. Go to Morocco. I do not care. It's none of my business. But if you want to have recovery, that recovery starts right now. And that recovery starts with listening, like the dying can listen, like it says in the first step. I have to listen like the dying can listen and have the conviction to practice this program in this moment. And at a meeting, the practicing is listening. That's all there is to do. There's nothing else to do. What else could you do? You're either talking or listening. But what I do most of the time is think about what I'm going to say when it's my turn to talk, or judge everything everyone else is saying and agree and disagree with what's being said. And none of that's needed. All of that is self. There is no judgment needed right here, right now, because this is my belief. You can believe whatever you want. Of course, this is AA. I'm sure you're not going to believe what I believe. But what I believe is that there is a piece of God that's inside of me, a piece of something, a piece of creative intelligence, a piece of spirit. There's some spirit in me. And that spirit is the thing that makes me alive. And that spirit has access to all knowledge and all power, all of it. So you might agree with what I'm saying, but you already know it. You already know it because you have the same spirit inside that I have. And the truth is the truth, no matter who says it. And so in this moment, I can relax into knowing that I have all knowledge and all power inside of me. There's no need for me to judge you. I have my own access to my own knowledge and my own power in this moment. But it's God knowledge and it's God power. It's not Randy's ego knowledge. It's not the stuff that I've learned, because the book tells me that I have to let go of my old ideas absolutely, or the result is nil. So all of that knowledge, all the stuff that I've learned, I've got to let go of. And I have to be present right now, right here, right now, and start accessing all knowledge and all power. And I don't need to judge to do that. I don't need to even agree or disagree with what's being said to do that. I just have to be present. I just have to ask this higher power to be with me. And then relax into this moment, knowing that this is the best moment there ever was, right here, right now, without anything having to change. And then I have some application right now. And so I notice, the room always thins out in step 4. Inevitably thins out in step 4. And we were going over this sheet. Did anybody look at the sheet during the week? Thank you, Luke. So this is a resentment sheet printed up the way that Dan Sherman did it in a group out here called, I don't know what it was called. Big Book Awakening is the name of the book that he wrote that kind of, I don't even know if you can see the name on there. It's in Boston there. It says Big Book Awakening. And there's a group and they follow this format, and they wrote this format for the 4-step, and I think it's brilliant. And we handed out sheets the last 2 weeks, and I was going through the sheets. Does it even make sense to go through the rest of the sheet? Do you want me to do that? Yeah? Okay. All right. So so I'll do this real quick because I've already talked a lot, but look, doing the 4-step is not what this meeting is about, but it's talking about the steps keeps the meeting focused in a direction and going through the 12 steps, but it's not a steps workshop. It's a principles and application right here, right now moment to be connected. All right. So, but everything that I talk about, I hope, is in the book, in the big book, in the 12 and 12. If it's not, don't listen to me. So it says resentment is the number one offender, and I have to turn every one of these sentences into a question. So do I believe that resentment is the number one offender? Can I look around my life and see that it's my resentments? My resentments are the things that make me restless, irritable, and discontent. And then it says it destroys, or my glasses. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. From it stems all forms of spiritual disease, for I've been not only mentally and physically ill, but I've been spiritually sick. My favorite sentence, one of my favorite sentences. When the spiritual malady is overcome, I straighten out mentally and physically. So I always got that backwards. I thought, wait, first I'm going to straighten out mentally and physically, and then I'll talk about maybe trying to find this higher power thing. But that's not what the book says. It says first I straighten out spiritually, then I straighten out mentally and physically. Okay, so in dealing with resentments, I put them on paper. I write down I list the people, institutions, and principles with whom I'm angry. I write them all down. So much fun. Everybody I'm angry with. Finally get to put it on paper. And then I ask myself why I was angry. So that's column 2. Column 1 is the person. Column 2 is why I was angry. And then column 3, I had to ask myself why I was angry. In most cases, I found that it was my self-esteem, pocketbook, ambition, or personal relationships, including sex, were hurt or threatened. So I was sore. I was burned up. On my grudge list, I set opposite each name my injuries. And then was it my self-esteem, security, ambition, or personal relations or sex relations which had been interfered with? Okay, so I go back through my life. Nothing counts but thoroughness. When I'm finished, I consider it carefully. The first thing apparent was that this world and its people were often quite wrong. That's what I find, right? I've been wronged. To conclude that others were wrong was as far as most of us ever got. It's as far as I ever got. I'm all full of blame. You're the reason I did all my bad behavior, not me. The usual outcome was that people continued to wrong me and I stayed sore. Sometimes it was remorse, and then I was sore at myself. But the more I fought and tried to have my own way, the worse matters got. As in war, the victor only seemed to win. My moments of triumph are short. So making everybody else wrong and me right and winning the war of who's right is a waste of time. So I look back at this list and I've got to look back at, so it asks me to put down what it affects, and it affects my self-esteem. My self-esteem is how I feel about myself, right? We went through this last week. I'm not going to go through the first, and then pride, how I think others see me or feel about me. My idea of how others see or feel about me. And then my ambition, what I want to happen, what I wanted to happen in this situation that didn't happen. And then my security, what I need here to be okay. So I need everyone to love me to be okay. I need people to listen to what I say for me to be okay. I needed the guy that bought my house to pay me all of the money he said he was going to pay me for me to be okay. And then it talks about personal relations. So we didn't talk about that last week. So personal relations, my deep-seated belief about how this relationship is supposed to look. So in respect to the guy that bought my house, if I can find it. Okay. The one I didn't do the guy who bought my house. I did the movie distribution guy. Personal relationships. Distributors respect their clients. Business owners respect me. That's what I put down for my personal relations. That's the way, my deep-seated belief about how this relationship is supposed to work. And then the fear is that I won't be respected. And then sex relations. This is an interesting one because I thought sex relations meant relations that I had sex with other people with. But that's not what it's talking about. What was shown to me is that the sex relations is the way that I relate to the sexes. My deep-seated belief about how a real man or a real woman is supposed to be. And this is a really interesting thing because it's about how I think a real man should be in my life. And when I looked at this, I had to look at my life. And if you're a woman, how a real woman would be. And so as a real man, if I was a real man, if I was a real man, the description that the guy who took me through this 4-step work was, he said, just think of John Wayne. Real man, John Wayne. Big guy. Everybody respected him. All the men wanted to be his friends. If you were his enemy, you knew you were in trouble. And all the women wanted to be with John Wayne. And when he walked into the room, he commanded the respect of others. And so what I was shown is that a real man commands the respect of others. And a real woman is cherished by others. A real woman walks into the room and everybody wants to be her friend. And all the men want to be with her. And she's cherished and she's taken care of and she's treated like royalty. And that's the idea about a real woman. So this might resonate with you, it might not, but that's what I found for myself. And the last thing was pocketbook. So how was my pocketbook? How did it affect my finances? So they took advantage of me. This distributor took advantage of me. They didn't pay me on time. They didn't pay me what they were supposed to. So what I wrote was, no one should ignore me, and no one should cheat me out of my money. And the fear is that I'm unimportant, and the fear of being cheated. So that's columns 1 and 2. And then there's something in the book, The Realization. So it says, it's plain to see that a life which includes deep resentments leads only to futility and unhappiness. To the precise extent that I permit these, do I squander the hours that might have been worthwhile. But with an alcoholic like me, whose hope is the maintenance and growth of a spiritual experience, this business of resentment is infinitely grave. That means deadly. I found it is fatal. It actually says that. Resentments can be fatal for me as an alcoholic with alcoholism. For when harboring such feelings, I shut myself off from the sunlight of the Spirit. The insanity of alcohol returns and I drink again. And with me, to drink is to die. So this is serious business. This is why most alcoholics die of alcoholism, because they never do this 4-step. And it's a terrible thing to do. It's not easy. It's not fun, but it has to be done. If I am to live, I have to be free of anger. The grouch and the brainstorm were not for me. They may be the dubious luxury of normal men and women, but for an alcoholic, these things are poison. So then it says, I turn back to the list. So this is the other side of the page. I turned back to the list, for it held the key to my future. I'm prepared to look at it from an entirely different angle. All my life, I blamed everybody and everything for my troubles. I began to see that the world and its people really dominated me. In that state, the wrongdoings of others, fancied or real, had power to actually kill. To kill. How could I escape? I saw that these resentments had to be mastered, but how? I could not wish them away any more than alcohol. This is my course. I realized that the people who wronged me were perhaps spiritually sick. Though I did not like their symptoms and the way they disturbed me, they, like me, were sick too. So this is the realization part of step 4. I look back at the list and I have the realization, how have I done the things I resented in column 2 to the person I've listed in column 1 or others? So I look back at my distributor and I can look back in my history and I can see that I have not paid others on time. I haven't always been on time. I haven't always paid people exactly what I said I would do. I have not honored all of my deals. I've backed out of some deals after the deal was already done. And so all of a sudden I can see that I have done to others the same thing that I'm resenting that this person is doing to me. And it takes a lot of the sting out of the resentment. And so I have talked for a long time. I'm going to stop talking now. It's now for all of you to talk about, if you want to talk about your resentments, but do not be specific. This is not a 5th step. This is not a room where anyone is ever going to do a 5th step. We're not going to do a public 5th step. We're not even going to do a public 4th step. This is just a walk through the steps. And I am not a sponsor for any of you except for Evan maybe, or maybe Spencer. And I'm not here to take you through the steps, but just to look at it and just to have a discussion about it and to see what's important in the 4th step as application. And so as application, I have to do it on paper. I have to write it out. I have to do it in black and white. Otherwise, it's just more nonsense running around in my head. And it continues to be blame if I don't write it down. But when I write it down and I can look at it and I can turn back to the list and look at it from a different angle, then something new could come in. Something new can happen. And this is a way of life. Taking inventory becomes a way of life, that I need to be able to do this and I need to know how to take inventory, because in step 10, I'm going to continue to take inventory and I'm going to continue to see when I'm wrong. Up until this point right now, I've never been wrong. I've done some bad things, but I wasn't wrong because you did worse things, and I can justify my bad behavior because of the worst things that you did. And I have to learn how to take inventory so that I can see when I'm wrong. Otherwise, it's all just a mess. And there is no spiritual growth if I cannot see my part in my life. So thank you for letting me share, and I look forward to hearing from all of you. You guys are muted. Oh. You guys are muted, by the way.
That would be very much